ESPN's College Game Day has made its Week 1 destination pick. If Notre Dame beats Texas A&M, they're going to the playoff.
You are Locked On College Football, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. Realignment, coaching carousel, the portal, and more. We've always got you covered. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Florida gets Cormani McClain. Could they get Elijah Badger? We'll talk about that and some curious happenings in the Mountain West and why they'll struggle to make the playoff this year. But we start with the Week 1 game at Kyle Field. Cue the game day music. We're coming to your city, College Station. Texas A&M, currently a 1.5-point favorite over Notre Dame. Should be an excellent affair to kick off the college football season in 2024. If Notre Dame wins that ball game, they're going to the playoff. Why? Notre Dame, of course, remains an independent. They are not in a conference. They're not going to the Big Ten right now. They're not in the ACC. They're not doing anything. They're Notre Dame. They can just kind of do their own thing. Notre Dame's three biggest games in 2024 are Week 1 against Texas A&M. Then they play a bunch of teams that I expect them to beat. Marcus Freeman, I think, has steadied the ship after, shall we call it, a rocky start to his coaching career in South Bend. And I expect with Riley Leonard at quarterback, if he stays healthy, for Notre Dame to be a playoff team as long as they reach 10 wins. 9 wins, not going to do it. But 10 wins should do it. The three biggest games, Texas A&M on August 31st, November 9th at home against Florida State. Big time game. And then to end the regular season, they play USC. I expect Notre Dame to win every other game on their schedule. Tell me who else frightens you if you're a Notre Dame fan. Northern Illinois, nope. Purdue, not happening. Miami of Ohio, I hope not. Louisville, maybe. It's at home, though. I like Notre Dame. Stanford, okay. Georgia Tech, I could see it. I could see an upset. They've got Army and Navy, and then Virginia. Not in that order, but if you look at Notre Dame's schedule, those three big games, if they go 2-1, they're absolutely in the playoff. But I think they could go 1-2 and make the playoff. So if they come out Week 1 and beat Texas A&M, 1.5-point underdog on the road, it is going to be absolutely fantastic. 7:30 p.m. Kickoff on ABC. They're two big games, Florida State and USC. They might not win both of them, but they don't need to win both of them. They just have to win one of them. And I don't see them going 0-2 against Florida State and USC. You got one game at home, one game on the road. Yeah, Florida State's really good. They got a great roster. They've had a great transfer portal offseason. But I'm not that crazy about DJ Uiagalelei. I think Florida State's really good. But if you put Notre Dame into the ACC, where would they be? Right at the top of the conference with FSU and Clemson and Miami and NC State. That would be the group in the ACC. So if they prove in Week 1 that they can win on the road, I don't think they go 0-2 against Florida State and USC. And even if they do, if they lose both of those games, I think they'll run through the rest of their schedule, end up at 10-2, and make the college football playoff. So it's a massive game. I like that game day pick for ESPN. You know, I have been critical a time or two on this channel with regards to decisions made by College Game Day and where they decide to go. But I think this one is outstanding. There are going to be a lot of great games throughout the course of this season. But Texas A&M, you got Mike Elko coming in, Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, year 3. It's going to be fun. It is going to be a lot of fun. Should be a top 25 matchup as well. I would expect that once again, as everyone always loves, Texas A&M will wind up inside the top 25 because they have had a fantastic offseason with their transfer portal class. And then Notre Dame, well, of course, Notre Dame is going to be inside the top 25. They might even be a preseason top 10 team. We'll see where the polls end up falling. But that's not the only thing I wanted to get to start today's show. public service announcement for those who are unaware of the big news yesterday. The big news in college football yesterday is that EA Sports College Football 25 has got an official release date, July 19th. I made my pre-order quicker than I would probably go to get my hypothetical child from a burning building, okay? We had an insane amount of urgency here in this house to make it happen. I went with the deluxe package personally because I did want to play 3 days earlier. July 16th is when you can get access to it. So everyone needs to be aware of this. I have missed this game more than I miss college football during the offseason. Just that's how I've met every single year growing up as a kid. You know what made me even more excited for college football? Playing the game. Playing the game was just a time and a half, and I was devastated when it went away, and it is coming back. By the time you're listening to or watching this show, there should be a full trailer out. I can't wait to see what the gameplay will look like. We haven't seen this game in 11 years. We're all Sirius Black in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I did my waiting. 12 years. 11, but close enough. Same vibe. That level of unbridled energy is going to be unleashed by college football fans when that game comes out. This is going to be appointment. Is television the right word? It's going to be appointment. Get to your television. Play the game. Start your dynasties. Me personally, I am a guy that enjoys taking a low-level school, winning a national championship, and bolting to the next rebuild. All about the grind, all about the hustle. And by the way, when that game comes out, if you want to play me in a game, which, good luck. You're welcome to. You're welcome to. I will gladly talk a big game in college football there, because once that game comes out, I will log an insane number of hours. I've already played the previous versions of the game more than I could possibly count, but I would love to play some of you out there. So just hit me up. Let me know. But I think it is so great that that game is coming back, because every July, which is when this game is coming out, it's when the old games used to come out. I'm sure it's when the future games will come out. At least I would think. It just helps build the excitement. And now you're going to have actual players in the game. Cover athletes: Donovan Edwards, running back at Michigan; Quinn Ewers, quarterback at Texas; Travis Hunter, two-way player at Colorado. I think all excellent choices. I was a little surprised Carson Beck wasn't on there, but Texas is a big brand. I think they wanted to have a little positional versatility, and that's why maybe you had Donovan Edwards on the cover instead of Carson Beck. But I like the choices. I think those are all big names, and you're going to get to play with those guys. Not HB number 7 at Michigan. No, it's going to actually say Donovan Edwards on it. And shout out to everybody at EA for making this happen. We are all excited, and the hype machine for it should be just as real as that week 1 game at College Station. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Maybe that'll be the first game I play when it comes out in July. Cannot wait. We waited for a while to hear where Cormani McClain would end up. He's at Florida. Is that the last move they make in the portal? I wouldn't think so if you're a Gator. First, let's get to our friends at Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Cormani McClain's a Florida Gator. Is he the only transfer pickup the Gators are about to add? Brandon Olsen, Locked On Florida Gators, joining me here. So, McClain, we've talked about him here on this show. Brandon, he was looking at a number of other places, South Florida, Memphis, and a couple other kind of lower level schools were in the mix. Did Florida end up landing him because they were the highest profile school? Because he is going there as a walk-on, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the relationships that Billy Napier has built throughout his tenure in Gainesville. Like, we talk about it a lot, where you can criticize Billy Napier's on-field coaching ability all you want, and there's plenty of justified criticism to be served there. But when it comes to building relationships and keeping in touch with players, Billy Napier has been just stellar at that. I mean, you look at Jameer Grimsley, who is deciding between Florida and Alabama, decided to go to Alabama because coaching stability was more reliable there. And then Nick Saban retired, and Jameer Grimsley hopped right in the portal and immediately went to Florida. It wasn't even really a discussion. It was, okay, I trust these guys, I'm going to go there. We've seen Florida miss out on players and stay in contact, stay in touch, and then eventually land that player, whether they flip or, like Cormani McClain's case, where he hits the transfer portal and he goes to a place where he can trust that he's going to be into a solid position that can kind of make him work. That's the big point of the walk-on status, is you can earn a scholarship in December with how you present yourself the rest of the summer and this fall. You come in, you earn it, we'll give you a scholarship. And it's as simple as that. And so I think that the way Billy Napier has handled relationships, this is just another testament to that.
How would you describe Florida's defense over the last couple of years? And McClain, either this year or next year, how can he factor into making it better?
I think that the past 2 years, Florida's defense has been horrendous. If that's,
that's a word. That's a word. Yeah. You're allowed to use it.
Yeah, I've never been more confident that I can step onto a field and contribute. And I didn't make a MAC walk-on tryout, so I want to make it clear. I've never been more confident there. It was bad. You know, you had both of your starting corners in Gainesville allowed over 20 yards per catch, which means that in any given situation, you're really never out of it. If you're an opposing offense against Florida, just throw it to the outside and they allow the catch, and it's probably going to be a first down every single time. I don't think Cormani McClain is going to contribute much this season, just because I think last year at Colorado, when he got on the field, he was not good. I think that he needs to gain some weight to be a reliable contributor. And I know that a bunch of people want to go, oh, Devonta Smith played at 165 pounds. Two massive differences there. Devonta Smith is about 3 or 4 inches shorter than Cormani McClain and the same weight. And Devonta Smith didn't have to tackle people. And those are two very big differences. There's a reason Cormani McClain had a 37.5% missed tackle rate with PFF last season. He needs to bulk up a little bit to hang and bang the SEC consistently. But I think that when you look at next year, he can be a big-time player. He needs a lot of work and technical development. But if you get that from Will Harris, if he puts in the work, he gains a little bit of weight, you're looking at 1 or 2 starting spots opening on the outside for Florida next year. And Cormani McClain could slot right in there. I mean, you look at 6'2", 6'3". He's got very long arms. We won't get those measurements until NFL Combine Pro Day time, but he's got very long arms. You can just see it looking at him. The ceiling's very high with Cormani McClain. It's just a matter of if he's willing to put in the work to become what he can become.
Deion Sanders, had comments not long ago taking shots at former players. He didn't do that with Cormani McClain. He did the opposite, actually. Gave a comment that I think most fans would want to see from their head coach, which is, look, we weren't able to get the best out of him. He wasn't able to make it work here, and hopefully he goes to a place that, holds him accountable and makes him the best version of himself, and he wishes him well. That's what a lot of college football fans would like to hear from their head coach more often. So I feel like for Colorado, this was a legitimate instance of they thought this would work, and it did not. And Deion Sanders handling it in a, shall we say, more mature, traditional head coach sort of fashion. And I think the scholarship element's really intriguing down at Florida. And he could turn into an all-conference caliber corner if he does put in the work, if he does get into the right sort of culture. But a guy he might be going up against in practice very soon, possibly, is Elijah Badger. So he's committing the day that this show comes out on Friday. He is down to Florida. He is down to Washington. and Arizona. Three very different places, very different football team, very different. Everything's very different. Like that is an interesting trail of recruitment to say the least. But how confident are you that they land Elijah Badger, and what would it mean if they got him?
So I'll say I'm about 60% confident that he's going to be a Gator. Just because I've been burned so many times with being confident about these kids. So I'd say about 60%, but I do think that if Florida doesn't land him, this is them whiffing. Like there's no reason to not get Elijah Badger. You get to go, oh, okay, well, Billy Napier coached at Arizona State. He was the offensive coordinator before he went to Louisiana. So there's not an overlap there, but he's got the Arizona State connection that he can always kind of fall back on. He did it with Ricky Pearsall, who just came from Arizona State to the Florida Gators, was a first-round pick, 31st overall in the 2024 NFL draft, competing for a Super Bowl immediately with the San Francisco 49ers. It's an easy selling point because you also get to go, okay, well, Washington replacing QB from last year, Arizona got a lot of turnover there just with Jed Fish leaving, Florida, Graham Mertz coming back, Ricky Pearsall gone. You can step right in and play a different role from Ricky Pearsall because they are different receivers, but you can step in right away and be the guy in this offense. That's open. That's a possibility. We talked about that with Keandre Lambert-Smith, if I'm not mistaken, with Penn State, and it's like, hey, he wants to go to a place he could be featured. That's a spot at Florida. You could be featured. Ricky Pearsall had 90-plus targets last season. He's gone. You lost receivers that had more targets, also gone. There's a lot of receiving ability or receiving options here, target shares available in Gainesville. I think it's an easy selling point for Elijah Badger. So for Florida, if you can't make it happen, and if you're getting outbid NIL-wise by Arizona and Washington, buddy, you're in the SEC. That can't happen.
Yeah, I agree on the NIL front there. And for Badger, if he wants to be a wide receiver one, which I know that he can be, Florida's got to be the most appealing of these choices here. Now, if he goes to Washington, is he going to play? Yeah, of course. Is he going to get plenty of targets? Yeah, he will. If he goes to Arizona, will he get thrown the ball plenty? Yeah, probably. But will he be the top guy? No, it's Tetairoa McMillan at Arizona, and it's either Denzel Boston or Jeremiah Hunter at Washington. It'd probably be kind of a revolving door, and I think Badger is really good, and he's coming out of a season in which he was barely throwing the football because Arizona State didn't have anybody to throw him the football there. And if you're Graham Mertz at Florida, you have to be looking at this move saying, please go get me this guy. Give me a wide receiver one. I think it, at the very least, would help Florida be competitive with the toughest schedule in the country.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Trey Wilson, last year was a freshman All-American, but I've said he played a gadget role last year. 88% of his yards came after the catch, but that's because so many of his targets were behind the line of scrimmage. He was just catching little pop passes and screens and making plays. And I do think that he'll take the next step, but he's not a proven wide receiver right now. So much of what we saw from Trey Wilson was being used as a gadget offensive weapon, whatever you want to call it. And that's not even a knock. You do that and you're exceptional at that. But as far as playing wide receiver, running routes, creating separation downfield, we haven't seen that from Trey Wilson. We have seen it from Elijah Badger. And if you think Trey Wilson can take the next step, which I do think he can, imagine having both of them on the field at the same time then. And I think that just gives Florida a huge leg up, like you said, with the toughest schedule that we've seen any college football team have to go through in at least a very long time, maybe ever, depending on how things work out.
Well, there are a lot of years to look at forever, but hard to say that they wouldn't be in the mix at the very least for the toughest schedule that we have seen. Brandon Olsen, Locked On Gators, trying to soften the blow of that schedule with Elijah Badger. We'll see how it all plays out. Brandon, thanks as always.
Thank you.
The Mountain West win totals are out. Are they going to get a team into the playoff? Might be tough. That's coming up next, along with the most shocking thing I've ever seen from our friends at FanDuel. Before we talk win totals, let's talk wins you can make over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and in the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. You can bet everything you want in college football. Win totals, you can bet Heisman odds, national championship odds, conference championship odds, everything that you could possibly want. FanDuel has got it to get your college football gambling fix. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and our official sportsbook sponsor here at the Locked On Network. It is going to be a challenge for the Mountain West to get a team into the college football playoff. Not impossible, but certainly a challenge. So, teams with the biggest win totals are Boise State at 8.5, Fresno State 7.5, UNLV. How about the job that Barry Odom has done at UNLV? Giving them the second highest preseason win total in the Mountain West, the Rebels have come a long way. They have come a long, long way in just the last couple of years since Odom has taken over. And certainly that's a guy who, when the coaching carousel heats up after this upcoming football season, watch for Barry Odom's name to get circulation if UNLV is able to repeat their success of last year. But Boise State is going to have a tough time, not an impossible time, but a tough time reaching double-digit wins. And this, I think, is going to be the threshold for the Mountain West to get a team into the college football playoff. Because if you're looking at the other group of 5 conferences, the American Conference or the Sun Belt, or last year would have been Liberty out of Conference USA, you have to have double-digit wins by the time your conference championship game comes to an end, meaning bare minimum, a Mountain West team has to go 10-3 to find themselves as the highest-ranked group of 5 team to get into the 12-team playoff. So Boise State's win total is 8.5. No surprise there. They are my favorite to win the Mountain West. Not the only team that can win it. I don't think there's a huge gap between them and others. I think they've done some really, really good stuff this offseason. Spencer Danielson certainly has plenty of momentum despite their loss in the final game of the year. I'm not too worried about that. They won the Mountain West last year after firing their coach, which is curious. It is a not precarious. It's a peculiar situation, not one that you see particularly often. But Malachi Nelson, who can really spin it, former 5-star USC commit, he's now the quarterback at Boise State. So I think that the Broncos, with Ashton Genty back in the backfield and consistently one of the best rosters, if not the best roster overall in the Mountain West, are certainly a team to be trifled with. But getting to 10 wins, going into the 12-team playoff selection, that's going to be tough. You need at least 9 regular season wins, and that comes down to the 3 big games that Boise State will play against non-Mountain West teams. They've got Oregon State on the schedule, they've got Washington State on the schedule, and they've got Oregon on the schedule. Have to win one of those games. Can you beat Oregon State or Washington State? Absolutely. Could you upset Oregon? That feels like a daunting task given that the game will be played in Eugene inside Oregon's cozy confines of Autzen Stadium. But they have to win one of those games, at least one of those games, because even if you win just one of them, just one of them, you can only lose one Mountain West game. And I don't think you're going unbeaten in the Mountain West slate, which is why I say you have to win at least one of those games to make your way into the playoff. I don't think 9-4 as a Mountain West champion gets you into the college football playoff. I do not see it. I think you will have an American or Sun Belt champion that has got a better record and will be higher ranked inside the college football playoff committee's top 25. So that's the challenge for Boise State. Next on the list, Fresno State. No surprise. Consistently one of the best programs in the Mountain West. Jeff Tedford back in charge, had a good season last year, 9 wins. Fresno State's win total at 7.5 will also come down to a handful of key matchups. And I think part of the reason their win total is one lower than Boise's is because they've got now, is Boise expected to win that game at Oregon? Probably not. But Fresno State has loaded up their schedule with some, it's not easy. Let's just say it's not easy. Why? Well, they have to go at Michigan. You're going to get a good indication of how good Fresno State can be in that game. At Michigan to begin the year. there are easier games to start with than at Michigan. Now, the Wolverines are probably licking their chops saying, bring it on, Bulldogs. Come into the big house and show us what you got. That's going to be tough. That is going to be a tough proposition for Jeff Tedford's team to go against the defending national champions, who have had a lot of turnover, are still going to be probably a top 15 to 20 team in college football this year. So they have to play Michigan. Also in their non-conference slate, they have to play New Mexico State. Do not sleep on the Aggies. They were playing for a Conference USA title a season ago. They ultimately fell to Liberty, but that is a team that is certainly playing in a lesser conference, but is at the top of that conference, and it has the same sort of vibes as when Group of 5 teams go up against a lower level team in the Power 5. Look, yeah, this conference has got more money, better pedigree, better teams and everything, but the team at the top can very easily compete with the teams that are, in the middle of it. Fresno State is, of course, closer to the top of the Mountain West. New Mexico State is not to be trifled with. Absolutely not. They've got Washington State. Now, I'm not even talking Mountain West games here. I'm just looking at the non-conference and saying it's going to be hard for a Mountain West team to get to 10 wins. This is not impossible, but right now, I would lean towards it's not going to happen because the schedules are just absolutely brutal, and I think the win totals are reflecting that. Washington State is on the schedule. I expect the Cougars to be anywhere from a 7-9 win team this year. Not going to be an easy game. So if you're Fresno State, you got to have at least 2 of these wins, and you've got UCLA on the road to end the year. Now, last time, at least that I remember, maybe there was an instance before, but last time Fresno State went into the Rose Bowl, they beat a good Chip Kelly team. They had Jake Haener at quarterback. He, of course, hasn't been there for a couple of years now, but they went into the Rose Bowl and beat UCLA. I don't think the Bruins are very good this year. Deshaun Foster, I'll be talking about him next week. He's done some nice things on the recruiting trail that are noteworthy at the very least. But you have to play Michigan, Washington State, UCLA, and New Mexico State? Oof. That is not a Bulldogs woof as in terrorizing other teams. That's tough. That is really, really challenging. This is certainly a year where UCLA is gettable. I think they're absolutely gettable in that game. Is it going to be easy? Nope, it definitely is not. That game could decide whether or not they can reach 10 wins depending on how the rest of their Mountain West schedule goes. And again, I'm not even talking conference games. I'm just looking at the non-conference slate. How about UNLV? Win total of 7.5 for Barry Odom and company. Maybe the hardest of the bunch. Boise State's got an argument, but so too does Fresno. Well, so too does UNLV for having the most difficult group of non-conference teams because they've got Houston week 1. Now that's an interesting football game. Houston is going to be towards the bottom of the Big 12. They're still in the Big 12 though. Willie Fritz is taking over. That's a good football coach. So too is Barry Odom. We understand that. How much of a gap is there going to be between Houston's roster at the Group of 5 just a couple of years ago and UNLV's? Is it going to be a Mountain West Big 12 gap? I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But Jaden Mayava is no longer at UNLV. He transferred to USC this offseason. Cameron Friel likely to take over as the starting quarterback. He's played some in his college career. It's been a minute, but he at least has experience. That's your expected starter for UNLV. We'll see how he fares in week 1. They've got Houston week 1. They also have to play Kansas. Sorry, that's gonna be a loss. Kansas is a good football team, Big 12 title capable team. Don't think that UNLV is going to pull that one off. They've got to play Oregon State, and they have to play Syracuse. I mean, man, Mountain West teams not shying away from competition. I respect it. But for 2024, it'll be the reason that the Mountain West doesn't make the playoff. If we look back and go, yeah, no, it was a different Group of 5 team that got in. These schedules will be the reasons why. And I think Mountain West teams and Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez, who I think is pretty darn good at her job, should consider talking to their football programs about, hey, set yourself up to have a schedule that will allow you access to the college football playoff. Because these schedules for your top team, I don't see it. I don't see a 10-win team in there. I think that is asking so much of somebody in there. Now, maybe one of these teams surprises me, but you have to pull off some really quality wins, most of which would be on the road. It's a tough proposition. One thing before I get out of here that I almost forgot to mention is the craziest thing that I have ever seen from our friends at FanDuel. Bust out the Titanic violin music for New Mexico here, as they have been assigned a win total of 1.5. Oh no. Oh no. Here's the upside. I think there is serious value on over 1.5 for New Mexico. They open with Montana State, a premier FCS program. That game, however, will be played in Albuquerque. If they win that game, they just have to beat one Mountain West opponent. They beat 2 a season ago. They won 4 games. They've done some work in the transfer portal. Vegas doesn't like the Lobos. I had to give them a little bit of a shout out here because that was one of the saddest things I have seen. God bless you, Lobo fans. Could be a tough year, but over 1.5, yeah, I'm taking that one. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.